Welcome back to More BS.
I'm Chef Babette.
And I'm Shabnam. And today we're actually going to talk a little bit about what was hard for us to get rid of when we went vegan.
Yeah, I think this is a really good topic.
Because most people think that like people who are vegan, maybe there are some that were born that way, but it's so rare.
It really is. And I was, I think 40 when I transitioned. I met Ron. And yeah.
And I was 35 when I transitioned. So
how many years has it been for you?
It'll be 5 in August.
Nice.
So
nice.
Almost there. Almost at and you
know, What's hard for you?
Like I grew up eating curry, like meat curry. Sometimes, and when we go to Bangladesh, we would actually, particularly when we were out in the village in my dad's area, like you would have like goat, lamb curry for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Wow.
Because you wouldn't waste it once you made meat. Usually out there in the village, you got to eat it.
Wow. So you guys kind of had a lot of meat in the family.
Lots of meat.
And lots of dairy.
Dairy, not so much in Bangladeshi cultures. In India, it's different. Bangladesh used to be a part of India, but in 1971 they had their independence from India. Remember, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh were all part of India. And so in 1971, Bangladesh had their independence war because they wanted to speak their own language and practice their own religion. Most of them are Muslim. My name's Shabnam Islam, obviously, but I was born Muslim, but I did transition to a Buddhist lifestyle and belief, which I think is time for us to talk about something else, but we'll talk about that another time.
Another time.
But I do believe that my culture and your culture was heavily dosed in meat.
Yeah. Yes.
So what was the hardest thing for you to give up, you would say, when you first went vegan?
If it has anything to do with animal products, I would say chicken.
You got to tell me that story.
Well, because I ate chicken, like, I had my favorite, there's a Popeye's chicken.
And if you grew up in the South, I loved Popeyes. And they're like spicy mashed potatoes.
And you can get them, you can get that biscuit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, you'd get that chicken, and I loved either the wing.
I'm a leg and breast girl.
Oh, no, but the breast too, because it had more of the meat on it.
Yeah.
But I'd eat the hell out of some wings.
Yeah.
But I would stop and get the gravy with the mashed potatoes, with the biscuits. And as I stopped eating animal flesh, one day I can remember coming from work and drove into that Popeyes. And as I got into the drive-through line, a voice said, "You don't eat this anymore." I was so geared up and ready. And it was such a habit until I just automatically went in there and drove out of, and I'll never forget that story, because I was like, how did you just drive? And it's so automatic, it was stupid, but.
Behavior change takes time. It's like, I often like to tell my clients, it's like, think about a dog that's been chained up to the back of a yard around a pole. Yeah. Its entire life, it's running around this circle. If you take it off the chain, chances are it will still continue to run that path. It's all it's ever known.
What they do to elephants in the circus, what they do to elephants.
People in a submission. But what you realize is that your food has addictive qualities, right? And it really doesn't impact your dopamine receptors in your brain, things that give you feeling of reward, pleasure. And when you consistently eat these foods and they consistently feed your brain that this brings you happiness, it becomes a narrowing of what brings you happiness. And that's what we call addiction, or what Dr. Andrew Huberman would call addiction, is a narrowing of things that bring you happiness. And so that's why we think people get addicted to food. They get addicted to smoking. And it's hard. It's a hard addiction to break.
But not a lot of other stuff was difficult for me to get rid of. But I would say chicken was probably, I didn't eat a lot of beef. It was mainly chicken.
And when you think about chicken, and we were just talking about it, like, oh, you guys at home are probably like, what? They're talking about, like, they love some Popeyes. And I'm like, no, because I remember what it was like to love Popeyes. I remember smelling it and being like, oh. And now when I smell
it stinks now.
Now it smells like dead, burning flesh.
Oh my God!
And now when you look at the wings that she loved, when you're eating 24 wings, you realize you just killed 12 birds just for one meal of 24 wings.
That's just evil.
And how many times do you do that when you dine out?
Wow.
And then when you look at the mashed potatoes or the gravy, and I was like, yeah, but look at all that animal pus in the milk and in the butter. And so when you go vegan,
wow,
you really think about, like,
there's so much to consider.
All the things that are actually truly in your food. And so when people talk about food, I'm like, wait. What you think is food and what I think is food are two totally different things.
Yeah, because it's like if you go and you just buy cake and you don't find out the ingredients have so much.
And you look at the ingredients like this big on, like, an ingredient label this big.
And Sha, what's really crazy is that they put all of that stuff in cakes, and I make bundt cakes every day at work, and I don't use any of that stuff.
Like 5 ingredients.
Exactly.
5 ingredients of raw organic matter. And so, speaking of raw organic matter, one of the hardest things for me to give up other than fish, was eggs. I was like, what am I gonna eat for breakfast?
And that was your thing. You ate those for breakfast. You grew up like that?
Every day.
Wow.
Every day. My dad always had, like, 2 sunny side up eggs in the morning.
I did.
So, like,
I did like those.
And they were fried with salt and
sunny side up. Which one was that? Where the egg was? Because I liked over easy.
Oh yeah, I liked over easy. My dad liked sunny side up. I like that little crisp
running through
and a little crisp on both sides.
On the sides. Yeah.
But then, as I went vegan, it was, trust me, like, at that point, just egg wasn't out yet.
Right.
So really it was a matter of, like, getting tofu, eating black salt, like, giving it the flavor.
Giving it the flavor and the smell.
It didn't really have the texture, because I had no affinity to cooking vegan at that time. And it was, like, tofu was different for me to start cooking that way. But here's the deal. 30 days after stopping eating eggs, they started to smell like farts. So anytime I'd go out to a restaurant and they're, like, cooking eggs, I'm like, God, what's up with the sewage in this place? And then you realize, no wonder it smells like farts. Egg periods.
So that's why you can use black salt to pretend you're...
They're chicken periods coming out of a bird's butt.
Oh my gosh.
And no wonder it smells like farts.
But I never knew they were chicken period before until, recent.
Well, and but you have to think about, like, we ovulate.
Right.
The shedding of, when we actually have our menses, it's the shedding of the egg.
That's true.
I don't want to talk about this because, like, I don't think everybody is interested, and I'm not trying to gross out our male viewers. However, I think it is an important topic.
That's important because I did not know it was chicken period. And now when I talk to somebody and they don't know and they're still ingesting it, and I go, you still eat chicken period? And they go, what do you mean chicken period? They don't know that that's what it is. And knowledge is power. Knowledge is healing. And so I think it's something you should make sure people understand. You said we ovulate and we get rid of the egg.
It's kind of like when we were talking about lactogenesis, when we're talking about breastfeeding.
Right.
The science of that, the physiology of that only occurs post-birth.
Wow.
So you literally have to rip families away to consume cheese. You fucking selfish shit.
Oh.
Like, what are you doing?
That is evil.
Like,
when you say it like that, that's sad. It is.
I can bleep it out, but it's selfish. It is so selfish. It's so selfish to put ourselves on top of these other species and just assume because we can communicate in human language that you don't assume that other species has the thought process, the intelligence.
But look at how we talk. When we were talking with our friend the other day, and they were saying they still ate salmon. And they were only concerned about what the salmon would or would not do to them. They, as bright as they are, and loving as they are, when I thought about the conversation, I was like, they only did research on what salmon would do to me. Screw the salmon. I'm eating it. I still like it.
And that's ego.
And that's selfish.
That's ego and it's selfish.
And when I stopped eating, when I became vegan, I stopped for the very same reason. It was all because of what I wanted to do, right, until I began to understand the connection.
How your choices have impacts.
Yes, on everything.
On everything.
Yeah.
The butterfly effect is truly, compassion starts on your plate.
Wow.
And so let's go back to eggs, right? Your chicken periods. Your chicken periods for breakfast.
Wow.
You know, you get a lot of differing evidence regarding, is this healthy for you? Is this not healthy for you? However, when you look at the evidence on eggs, it has a really high form of cholesterol.
Mm-hmm.
And this cholesterol has a big impact on blood sugar, on diabetes, on hypertension. How much fat is in your blood has an impact on all of these preventable diseases.
Right.
And the way that you can prevent having so much cholesterol in your diet is to particularly eliminate eggs. And you're going to hear evidence saying that that there's more cholesterol in meat and steak and fish, but actually that is incorrect.
Please tell me what's in there.
Let me see here. According to Dr. Neil Bernard of the Physicians Committee of Responsible Medicine, he's talking about that cholesterol is the same exact molecule, whether you get it from eggs or fish or beef, whatever you get it from. But it is logistically higher in eggs than it is in red meat.
I did not know that.
And yes, it is found in the yolk. It is found in the yolk.
That's where it is.
And the yolk. But the yolk does makes it be what we call a complete amino acid profile. So when you guys start just eating egg whites because you want to eliminate the yolk,
I've heard of that.
And then you're
just eating egg whites.
Then you, much like vegans, need to eat a synergistic diet because you have to have combinations of foods to ensure that you're getting your entire amino acid profile, all essential amino acids. And remember, there are 9 essential amino acids, 11 non-essential, 9 essential being like you need to acquire it from your diet, 11 you make it in your body already, which is why they're non-essential. You don't have to consume them in your diet. So, you know, like you're probably like, okay, well, what if I just eat it in moderation?
Is there moderation? Can you eat it in moderation?
No, because when I eat like fatty things as a vegan, I get fat. I get a little bit obese. I can't eat chocolate in moderation with it not having other impacts on how it impacts my skin, impacts my weight, impacts my fat stores. You can't.
Well, it's true. You know what gets me? If I'm not really careful and ingesting stuff that is what do you processed, I cannot ingest too much processed.
And you get like you have a tell. You have she gets like a leaky eye. I'm like, and then she's like, I gotta cleanse. And I'm like, cleanse. Yes, you do.
I do.
You gotta, because you need to eliminate that excess gluten or whatever it is.
But it also puffs me up.
It makes me super puffy.
It makes me puffy, and that's and I have a way of knowing whether I've ingested too much or when it's really time to cleanse. Is because the separation between my legs.
We talk about the thigh gap.
That's my scale right there.
Yeah, I haven't had a thigh gap in quite some time.
You have a thigh gap right now, you fibber. Yes,
I don't.
You do.
I am wearing green pants though. So
yes, she's okay today. We can't pant her.
So going back to moderation.
Wow. That's deep.
Here's the deal, like, which I really love this comparison. Dr. Neil Bernard, I'm going to refer to him again from Physicians Committee of Responsible Medicine, talks about, he compares this to like weekend smoking.
Really?
Or like being like what do you call it?
Oh my gosh.
Weekend smoking, or like just drinking on the weekends. Like y'all know how y'all party, throw it up, you know?
Right.
But all of these things really quickly impact your health biomarkers, right? The second that you consume meat, it has an immediate impact on how much fat is free floating in the bloodstream. And by having increased fat in the bloodstream, it impacts your endothelium. Your endothelium gets less robust. And your endothelium lining is the outer lining of all your arteries and your arterioles that serves as a barrier to bringing in things into your cells. Okay? And so if we have more fat in our bloodstream, our endothelium lining gets like chunky. It starts to build up blockages. And as we have more blockages, we have things like atherosclerosis, and then we have things like heart attacks and strokes that come from it. So all of this
and don't
impacts
forget men, their blood flow to their
blood
penis.
flow to that. Remember, that is an essential organ for males, right? And for females, I'm just saying, right? But so even if you eat it in moderate amounts, even if you eat it, you're still getting this accumulation of these elements in your system. And so really, they do hurt in small quantities. And frankly, when we're talking about behavior change, if I want someone to really transition to a plant-based diet, allowing them to continue to constantly go and eat, these little habits lead to bad habits, bigger bad habits.
But you know, everybody thinks that way, because I've even thought that way. Well, I don't eat that much of it, or I just every now I just have a little bit of it. Not, of course, I'm not eating animal products, but even stuff that I know that I should not ingest, I feel the same way.
I get it. You gotta live.
Right.
You gotta live.
Everybody's like,
I do mind, but when we talk about living, we also talk about living long, morbidity, in the absence of disease, and mortality. Like, how long do you want to live? Like, you can smoke, drink, eat poorly, eat fried animal flesh, but will you live to 80 and be thriving?
And see, the thriving is the more important than living to 80. I think quality is more important than longevity, personally, because there are a lot of people old, but they can't do, their life is crappy. You know, they're laying flat on their back, so I agree.
Now, remember, whenever you're going to make your argument about whether you should be eating eggs or eating dairy, you're going to be looking at evidence. You're going to see who is saying what. And your big thing to remember is that oftentimes the egg, dairy, and meat industry have a lot of money. The U.S. government pays a lot of subsidiaries to ensure that they also have a lot of money into these agro industries. And so, who is telling you that eggs are good for you? Who is telling you that dairy is good for you?
The government is.
Who is telling you these things? And you have to start thinking about the intersectionality of all of these things. Why is this person telling you? Who's telling you that? And how much money is going in their pocket?
Exactly.
Bing, bang, boom.
Well, that's tofu. How the meat and dairy industry put a bad voice on soy.
Oh,
remember?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Same reason.
And so there was this conversation about the New York, the Wall Street Journal, or the New York Times, their Well article, New York Times Well. They did a piece on how cow's milk is better for you than plant milk. And the argument was on the fact that, well, it has higher elements of protein. If that is your only essential argument, you should not be a writer. You need to quit your job.
Is that it?
And
it was protein.
Just clip coupons out of a magazine. For real. Are you kidding me? If that is your only essential argument, that's ridiculous. Because you at home who now don't want to get cholesterol are going to eat egg whites, but now you're not getting all of your essential amino acids. So remember, all essential amino acids, there's 9 of them. Now, tryptophan, methionine, there's leucine, isoleucine, there's 9. Now remember, you can get them from your diet. And the best way to do that is by eating the rainbow. It's calorically, it's nutrient dense, not calorically dense. You can eat so much and get everything you need.
Wow. That's good. I love that.
So,
that's some good info.
Stop eating those chicken periods and join us on the greener side.
I love it.
See you next time.
Bye.